you have to be at peace, and it's a process to get to that. Like, you really have to be at peace and understand that you have a different purpose. It's not that, you were just unfortunate, or, you did something in the past that hindered your dream. I don't believe it's that. I think you have to really recognize and understand what your impact in the world is going to be. And I think not getting to the NFL enhanced my impact and allowed my impact to really realize itself.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Hey Where'd You Go podcast. I'm your host, Collin, and I'm super stoked about this week's guest. We have former University of Illinois starting quarterback Isiah "Juice" Williams, and now he's a financial advisor at Northwestern Mutual. How's the family? How have you guys been holding up out in D.C.?
Everyone is good. Everyone's safe. Everyone is healthy. With more recent activity here being in D.C., I'm fortunate enough that I'm actually not in D.C. proper. I'm just outside of D.C., maybe 15 minutes. So away from, a lot of the madness that we see on TV right now. So we're good on that front. Everyone is healthy. So haven't been exposed to any COVID. Haven't had, haven't contracted it. So knock on wood, we want to keep that going.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Juice. And of course, I'm really happy that you and the family are doing well and staying safe during this unprecedented time that we're all living in. Dude, I want to start from the very beginning of Isiah "Juice" Williams. You were born in Chicago, Illinois at 13 pounds, 8 ounces. You're a fairly big baby. Is that where the Juice name comes from?
It's a Juicy Baby. That's exactly where I got my name from. It's a Juicy Baby. So my grandmother actually gave me that name. I had Juice before. I had Juicy before I had Isiah. So it's a Juicy Baby, and then I finally got my name. But that Juicy name, that followed me for a long time. Now, obviously, inner city kid, male, you can't walk around with a nickname Juicy, right? You can imagine the type of frustration and the comments that you'll get, as a young fella named Juicy. So after a few fist fights, we took the Y off and just made it Juice. So I've been Juice ever since.
I dig it. I have to be honest with you. As a kid, I talked to my parents about this when we were watching Illini games, and we were trying to figure out where the name Juice, where the nickname came from, and I thought it was because maybe you liked Capri Sun or something. I was wrong.
Nah, not quite. Yeah, I've heard all type of theories around that. You got a juicy arm. It's your favorite orange juice. You drink a lot of orange juice. Is that it? Nah, I literally got that name at birth.
Such a great story. It's a nice icebreaker too, especially now you're in the financial world. I mean, I'm sure that's always it's such a serious topic, but it's got to be nice if people ask you the meaning behind that name.
I love to tell this story, especially like in my line of work. So, every now and then I do some, I have some client relations or client building sort of strategies using my LinkedIn, and people ask me about it, right? And I embrace it. So to your point, it is a great icebreaker. You kind of bring yourself on the same playing field as your client. So I tell the story. We get some laughs, we get some jokes about it. So that really, just kind of puts us on an even playing field, and it leads to a great relationship. So it's pretty cool.
I do have to tell you, I am kind of glad that you dropped the Juicy moniker. I don't know how that would have been, on ESPN on Saturday mornings, going up against Jim Tressel's Ohio State, and they say Juicy touchdown. It could have been unique though.
Yeah, it would have been worse. It definitely would have been worse. So I'm glad that all worked out for sure.
I want to start from your childhood years in Chicago, Illinois. What was your childhood like, and what did your parents do for work?
Yeah, so growing up in the city of Chicago, so, some of the horror stories that we still hear about today, to me, I think they were even worse back then. Unfortunately, I guess fortunately, but unfortunately, it just wasn't, as recorded and as, publicized as it is today through social media. So we just don't hear about it. You didn't hear about it as much at the time, but it was just as bad as some of the horror stories that we hear now. So inner city kid, Anita, my mom, she was, still is, she's still an employee at the University of Chicago Hospital. So she's been in the hospitality business for, I'd say, at least the last 25 years or so, the last almost 30 years now. Just really, being a force on that front, being a frontline employee is really helping out and doing her, customer community service and, just really being on the forefront, especially with this, the current pandemic that's going on. My dad, Stanley, more of the, unconventional worker, was more the opportunist, out in the community. So, he struggled with trying to figure things out. But I would say he was always around as much as he could be, in terms of being the enforcer in the family, keeping us from doing, understanding right from wrong and keeping us from doing things that, would, potentially land us in jail or even dead. So he was great in that front. Has had a few in and out opportunities in terms of career, but mainly just kind of like I said, just one of those opportunists in the cities of Chicago. We hear that happen so often with young men and young adults that kind of get be statistics of the streets a bit. So, but like I said, he was always around. Just really had that iron fist, just really instilling the discipline within the family.
What attracted you to football?
I grew up and mostly, inner city Chicago kids basketball. You hear some of the greatest talent that's touched the NBA has been from Chicago. So quite naturally, I thought that would be my pathway. And I like to think I was pretty good at basketball. At some point, though, football is such an aggressive sport. Right. And it allows you as a kid, especially growing up in the inner city of Chicago, you have these different frustrations around what's going on in the community. Obviously, it's poverty stricken. You might be frustrated in school in terms of like your classroom performance and things like that. So anytime you can have some level of contact, I feel like whether it's a punching bag, whether it's football, it's a nice release. All right. At that time, I was absolutely using football as a release. So initially it started as just another activity for me to do in the off season of basketball. So during the fall and the winter months, I go in, play football, stay in shape and get ready for basketball. But at some point, I really started to enjoy the physical contact. And then I realized I could throw a football, somewhat far. So I started to develop that, started to mold and hold in on that talent a bit. And then that trend started to reverse a little bit. I started looking forward to football season more than basketball. And then by high school, as a sophomore, I'd say that's when it really started to take off.
The quarterback position, once you knew and once people saw that you could bomb that ball downfield, did that seal the deal for you? Or did you, because you're not a small dude, man. And from my perspective, you could have played anywhere on the football field if you wanted.
Just about everywhere except, offensive, defensive line. Well, I guess it's defensive end. I've been a smaller defensive end, but yeah, and I think that was the point. So growing up, especially with football in Chicago, it's not as popular as basketball. Everyone, you can find some of the most amazing talent in the sport in Chicago in terms of basketball. But for football, you really just kind of go out there and just play rec. It's not a whole lot of organization. You kind of get in where you fit in. So you just learn to play different positions at that point. You play a little running back, you play a little quarterback, you play wide receiver. You do everything but block. Right. So, and I kind of prided myself on being able to do a little bit of everything. So when it came down to when I first joined my first sort of Pop Warner league, they asked what position you want to play. I have had absolutely no clue. So my older brother, Rashad, who is 8 years older, he played quarterback in high school. So was halfway decent at it too. Right. So I remember him playing and going to his games, and I was that kid with I was the 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid following his big brother around everywhere, going to high school practices, going to, basketball games, just wanted to be around my big brother. So I saw him play quarterback enough. It's like, oh, I'm a quarterback. So without even really thinking about it too much, it's like, I'm a quarterback. So that's what started it. It wasn't anything around I can throw a football naturally or I just got the smarts to actually play the position. My big brother played quarterback, so I wanted to play quarterback and started to develop those skills.
Did you and Rashad ever have some friendly competitions, even though he's 8 years older than you?
Nah, because around that time, as I really got good at it, he was kind of outside of that window. And he was at the point where, look, I'm going to just be a fan of my little brother versus try to challenge him. That probably wouldn't be in the same if it was the other way around. If I was the older brother, I would definitely be challenging him for sure. So, but he just kind of fell back and let me have it.
I understand too, especially when you know that the younger brother is more talented as well. It's probably better just to not have the competition and just because with the hypothetical game, you could always continue to talk smack and say you're better, but it's once you go head to head and he sees that you're light years ahead, that's game over, dude.
Game over. Yeah, you realize that talent and it's over with. So there's no more debate at that point. Like we did that dance. So, and I think, and then, you know what, that might have been his strategy because now he he definitely will. He could have the ammo to go back and say, "Oh, I was actually better than you," but we wouldn't know because I don't know, we're outside those windows now.
See, it makes sense, right? I feel like that's it. I think my brother does the same thing with me. I have an older brother as well, and I think that's how he plays it because he knows, like, oof, if Collin does beat me in the 40-yard dash, then he's gonna just hold that over, and I would 100% hold that over his head because that's what
as you should. As you should, especially if you want to bring it up and be competitive. I'm going to hold it against you.
That's amazing. That's really cool, though, that your brother played quarterback and that he did kind of influence you in that regard. You played high school football at vocational. What was the high school experience like? Especially, like you just said, Chicago is such a basketball city. What was the high school football scene like in the area?
High school football in Chicago, compared to some other areas, not the greatest. Right, in terms of just the overall competition, you can look at the state of Florida, or if you want to look at certain cities. All right, so obviously Miami or Dallas football, or even LA. Some really really good football competition. But all the talent and the competition here in Chicago was all on the basketball court. So as it get cold outside, and those winters and even springs are not so friendly in Chicago, everyone wants to go inside and play basketball. So most of the talent pool was on the hardwood, and that kind of depleted, some of the competition in terms of football. But it was a couple conferences in Chicago football was probably a bit more superior than others. So, for example, there's a high school called Morgan Park High School, and that's where a lot of our nationally ranked kids who happen to play in Chicago, they go to either Morgan Park High School or Simeon High School, where Derrick Rose went to high school. Right, they had a really really good football team there as well. So, and I was a part of those conferences. So, whether if it was preseason or during the regular season, I had the chance every now and then to go up against some of that top talent and then really bang it out there. Generally speaking, was not that competitive, but athleticism was, bar none, right? You see some of the agility is there, the jumping ability, the size is there, just the organization around the sport that wasn't quite there in Chicago football, but still a good time. Developed me enough to be prepared for Champaign.
You bring up going to Champaign. Obviously, you had the opportunity to play at the University of Illinois, stay close to home. But Isiah, you had other opportunities like North Carolina, Penn State, Tennessee, and I hate saying this team name, Ohio State. Wanting you to come to their universities. Why'd you pick University of Illinois?
First off, it was an honor to have that type of selection pool coming out of high school. So, I had no anticipation or even thoughts of college. At that age, it's a sophomore or junior in high school. So for me to have that, that type of recruiting experience, it was pretty amazing. I think I finished up with a total of 75 scholarship offers from D1 schools.
75?
About 75.
That's more than 10 generations of Kushners will ever have.
That's a lot of scholarship offers. I only pinpointed that because right across town, my college roommate, one of my other good friends, Chris James, Demetrius Jones, who happened to be the number 2 quarterback in the country that year behind Tim Tebow. And I was number 3. So we always, this little friendly competition around that. And we had another buddy, Ramon Johnson, who was like the top 5 lineman in the country. So we were just kind of tallying up who to be had is kind of comparing numbers. So that's why I know it was 75. But that kind of, although that's a great, achievement, that just made things real confusing, right? You have 75 options to choose from. And as a high school kid, you try your best to make the right decision, right? You try your best to make the best decision for you and your family. And that's a lot of things to think through. It's a lot of sort of projective thoughts you try to have in terms of thinking about what supports you, what benefits you right now in terms of going out there and playing football, but also post-football. What does that look like as an alum, hopefully, of that university, and what type of network that you have access to? So I say that to say that started to become a part of the thought process. Where can I go to have the greatest opportunity to play? Not necessarily play right away. If I can play right away, it's even greater. But at some point, have a fair shot to play. All right, just looking at it from that perspective, that ruled out a lot of schools. All right, so, and just really understanding, being true to myself, I am an inner city Chicago quarterback. Never had a quarterback coach. The first time I've, really did any real hardcore quarterback drills is when I went out to the Nike camp up in Ann Arbor, and then ultimately out to Orange County to the Elite 11. It's the first times I've seen and done those drills. So I just knew if I put myself on an even playing skill with some of these top elite quarterbacks, I'd probably be shooting myself in the foot. So that ruled out a lot of schools because I wanted to make sure I had a legit shot. So the Ohio States, the USC offer, the Texas offer, like great to have, especially with the talent that was at those universities at the time. I just knew realistically I probably wouldn't have a shot, right? So I started to look at schools who needed a quarterback, looked at schools that kind of fit my playing style, and then that school pool got very, very narrow. So North Carolina, Illinois, and then Ohio State was still up there. We kept in contact. So those ended up being my final three. Illinois edged everyone out. And Illinois and North Carolina were so close, so close. It really came down to proximity. And where can my mom watch me play? North Carolina maybe once a year. Illinois every week. Every week. So I value that. Committed to Illinois, and I absolutely do not regret that decision.
I have to say, as like a 16, 17, 18-year-old, to go through that process, but to do it the way that you approached it is amazing. Because to me, it's got to be hard to like not get pulled in by like the Texases and the USCs just by those brand names. But to actually understand like, hey, these are my skill sets. I want to be close to home. To have like your own checklist and to go through that checklist to narrow it down, I don't find that to be very common.
It's not at all, because you have these emotions to schools, and it's just that. Like, it's not in your best interest to go. You just have an emotional attachment. So I'll use, for example, and not to say that this is not a good school for certain people, but this is highlight Oregon. Oregon is known for having the best uniforms visually. They have barbershops in the locker room. The founder of Nike went there. Nike headquarters is right there up the street. Oregon makes sense. And as a kid growing up, you have an emotional attachment to that. But if you start to think through, and it wasn't all on me having these thought processes, my older brother Rashad, my mom, other mentors, they were part of this process as well. They had me start to think differently. All right, that is surface level things, and that'll be great, but that gets old after a month. What happens next? All right, are you going to play? Are you going to get the proper education? Are you going to have all the resources that you need? When you have a bad day, you will have a bad day. It's going to be people around that really care about you. So that became, more the decision maker versus everything else, and having those emotional attachments to schools.
I love that. And especially, as I'm sure you know, kind of in the social media age, it's all about the glitz and the glamour. And I'm committing to play football at, let's just use this as an example, LSU, because of the allure that Death Valley brings. When if you pull back that facade and those layers, there are so many other things that you have to factor in. Like you said, education. Am I going to play? Can my family, will they be close by? I mean, there are so many different things that just get tossed out the window.
Yeah, no question. And I think it's only right that people who are a part of that process help you think through that, because you can't really count on a 16, 17-year-old kid to think that forwardly, having that decision. Right now, it just feels great to be wanted. It feels great to have these different universities banging on your door, saying how great you are and how special you are. So it feels good, and sometimes it misconstrues the thought process. So for the people who are part of that process, it is important for them to help them think through and ask those questions during those visits. And I think the recruiting process gets really, really clear if you can think through that.
And obviously you made the decision to go to Champaign, University of Illinois, some Big Ten football. And dude, you started right away. You got there as a true freshman. You started right away under Ron Zook, and you teamed up with some fantastic players, Rashard Mendenhall, Aurelius Ben. The first day you stepped foot on campus and you stepped foot in the stadium on a Saturday morning, or afternoon, I should say, what was that feeling like?
That feeling of you having, when you go away for a 3-day football camp or basketball camp, or when you go camping for 3 days, that feeling you get is you really feel like a visitor. It's like, I'm just here, my bag is over there, I got 2 pairs of clothes, toothbrush. I really felt like that. I was just a camper for a couple of days, but I was, eventually I would go back home and mom would come pick me up. So after the first couple hours and they were saying their goodbyes, it was like, this is really happening. I'm grown now, right? So that was an instant shock to the body. Getting on campus is nowhere near in the summer quite yet. So it's before summer school really takes off. So you're around football. And that's the very first time I'm around football 100%. In an elaborate Big Ten weight room, a massive football field compared to Chicago, other great athletes from all around the country. You got coaches, you have a quarterback coach. So it's 100% football. It's the first time I really had it. So I let that consume me enough that I didn't have time to really get homesick. So, and it happened eventually. I missed, having mom, hey, dinner's in the kitchen. I missed that. So that was more of a shell shock. Now, when Saturday rolled around, that first game day, that was kind of like a dream. It was a dream. It's like a dream come true. So as a kid, you watch Big Ten football. As a kid, you watch, some of the largely attended games throughout the country. You want to feel that. And, just like, every kid in the backyard, they have that countdown, 3, 2, 1, and they make that shot that goes in. You play with that in your head. So that was the realization for me. I was running out the tunnel as a true freshman, knowing I would play. That was a special, special feeling. The very first contact, Collin, we do the coin toss. We win the coin toss. We receive the ball. The very first kick, we had like an all Big Ten running back. His name was E.B. Halsey. He catches the kick maybe like the 3-yard line. He bursts through the hole. Somewhere around like the 30-yard line, he hits head on. Bang! Sounds like a car accident. The guy who hits him ends up either spraining his neck or damaging a nerve in his neck. Was down on the field for 30 minutes. Get carted off. Find out next year he ended up having his arm amputated from that. So that was my very first play as a collegiate football player. So mind you, that excitement and thrill that I had way up here, that came way down as a true freshman. I'm not going out there. So that was that first weekend. That was a rocky. That first game was a rocky, emotional roller coaster. But obviously, I kind of figured it out, and it worked out for the best.
Yeah, that's not exactly the start that you're imagining. When you're a little kid and you're imagining running onto a Big Ten football field on a Saturday, you're imagining like you're down by 3, or you're down by 6, I should say, and Juice Williams drops back, bombs it back, game-winning touchdown to Rashard Mendenhall. Everyone's going crazy. They carry off the field, and there's a giant party after.
Yep, that's exactly what you imagine. That's exactly what you imagine, but didn't quite go that way. So, but it was all good. It worked out, though. Worked out.
That's so crazy. That's so cool you were able to start as an 18-year-old because, like you said before, most of the time you get on campus, you usually sit behind. To have the opportunity to play right away, what did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. It was a special opportunity. That was one of the reasons why I ultimately decided to go to Illinois. Although it wasn't required, I started to think about it. It would be pretty cool to have access to play as a true freshman. Right? I never sat on the bench. I never had to wait for the graduating senior in high school to play varsity. I started on varsity day one. Even in Pop Warner, I was always a starting quarterback. So to go to college, knowing that I have an opportunity to play very, very soon, that was more of an appeal. So very lucky, very special to have opportunity to play as a true freshman. The coaches did all they could to get me prepared. They did their best. Mike Loxley was offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, obviously Zook. They did all they could to prepare me, but wasn't quite yet ready, I don't think. But that's a separate sort of discussion in terms of what I should have done that first season. But it was a great opportunity. It meant a lot. It's a tall order for 18-year-old kid, right? Know anything about the sport? You're next in line as a coach, right? You're the coach on the field, right? When the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator aren't around, they rely on the quarterback and using the middle linebacker to run that side of the ball. And to task a young 18-year-old kid who don't even know where, his Tuesday class is on campus to lead a bunch of men right there out there on the football field, that's tough. That's tough emotionally. That's tough physically. That's tough psychologically. So it was definitely some bumps in the road that first year as a freshman.
How did you handle that, having those extraneous pressures from, again, essentially being another coach on the football field, and everyone's looking at the quarterback? I feel like whether you're a football fan or not, all eyes are on you.
It's hard. I can't necessarily say that I can't necessarily say I handled it properly from an emotional standpoint. because I was always that kid that was always, exceeding expectation. So even as an early, newcomer to the sport, I chased around my older brother who's 8 years old, and he made me play with his peers. So I'm learning playing football. I'm 6 years old playing against 14-year-old kids, right? Or I'm playing basketball with 17-year-olds and I'm 10 years old. That prepared me so when I did get around my peers, I was always above them because I've been preparing myself this entire time. Now that role is kind of reversed. I go to college and I'm looking at 22, 23-year-old guys with full beards, like really chasing me. And that's tough. And I wanted to be successful, just like I've done in my entire career, so bad that I put the added pressure on myself. I wasn't okay with the learning curve. I wasn't okay with, just being mediocre. And I press, and that wasn't good. So I found myself trying to appeal to the fans. Say, hey, did you like that performance? So I go out there and play, have an okay game. I'm checking blogs. I'm reading news clippings. I'm checking for ESPN to see what the reactions are. And that's a lot of added pressure from an emotional standpoint. So I applied that, and it was totally unnecessary. But halfway through the season, all the way up probably closer to the end of the season, I started to snap out of it. My older brother, he started to get around a bit more. The coaches started pulling me up, said, "Hey, you can't worry about that. You have to go out there and play, or remember why you decided to play football. You love it, you enjoy it. Go out there and have fun. Because right now you're not having fun. You're just getting hit. You're just getting banged around on the field, and we're losing this first year for nothing, right? So go out there, have fun, enjoy it, and then that's when things start to shift a bit."
In some ways, do you kind of think that kind of up and down year as a true freshman shaped the rest of your football career and built that confidence to the point where you were like, hey, I don't need to read these blogs. I don't care what the fans are saying. I just need to go out there and have fun.
Indeed, and it's a process I think every successful quarterback has to go through. Sometimes that process happens in high school when you see that with Trevor Lawrence, when he gets to college and he's right from the gate, he is like smoking. Right, he's coming out with a fast start. But sometimes you have situations like myself or some late bloomers who just say, you know what, let's just have fun. Let's enjoy this. And that's when things start to take off. So I definitely think that experience helped me out later in my college career to allow me to say good or bad, right? Remain even in terms of like how your emotion, how you feel. You have a great game, feel good about it, but that great game doesn't dictate the next one. If you have a bad game, same thing. It doesn't dictate next week. You just keep getting better and keep working on your craft, and then you'll see a difference in your performance. So that helped. Now it's always the debate of should you have redshirted that year versus going out there and starting. A lot can be said about that. I mean, obviously you redshirt, you get extra year of learning. You don't essentially waste a season just going out there just running around for get like a chicken with his head cut off. But I also don't think I gained the experience that I've gotten as a true freshman. I don't think we go to the Rose Bowl that following season if I don't play as a true freshman. But, those are just my beliefs.
See, I like the fact that you played as a true freshman because you can prepare, you can read, you can do film study, you can listen to older guys. You can do all that, and that will benefit you. But the most beneficial thing you can do is get on the field and get in the game, get some game action. And even if that means running around like a chicken with your head cut off, so be it. That's just how I see it. But again, in the moment, It sucks. You're getting thrown to the ground. Fans are calling for you, and you're.
Yeah.
That can't be. That's not an exciting feeling.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. It's not fun. But like you said, I personally think, at least my experience, I learned from experience. So if I don't go out there and I have that fumble against Iowa, right? I'm not prepared when I'm facing that situation the next year when we play Wisconsin. Or, I see us struggling that, in 2006 when we played Ohio State, we have them right down the ropes, very similar to when we beat them. We right down the ropes, we're down 7, we're driving and we're marching down the field. Without that experience, I don't have the type of fourth quarter I have at Ohio State the following year. Right. So, I think it could go either way, and many people will have different opinions on it. But in my experience, I think those moments prepared me for the success that I had to follow.
A lot of people fail to understand that those moments of struggle will help you in the future. What that looks like, nobody knows until you get to that next moment in time. The thing that sucks about being in the spotlight too is that, like, let's just say you have an incompleted pass, eyeballs are on you. Like, when I mess up, like at work or something, and like I misspell something on an email, I don't have thousands of people, booing me or something. Imagine us going to these people, going into their everyday jobs. Let's say they're in marketing, and you and I just pop up and start booing them every time they make a mistake, because mistakes are inevitable and it's a part of life and growth.
And that's where examples like that really allowed me to sort of snap out of it. So I put all this indirect pressure on myself, and I'm trying to appeal to everybody, thousands and thousands of people on a national scale. It's no way. You have a great game, still it's going to be someone that you could have did better. So it's unrealistic for me to appease all these people, and it's not fair. You want to do this, and it's not. You want to do this. You want to apply this type of pressure in a normal working environment, like you said with the email example you just gave. So just don't do it on the football field where this is supposed to be fun. You're lining up against other Division I athletes who have a job as well. So, to tell me you're supposed to be successful all the time against another Division I athlete, I don't think it works that way, right? So these things start to become real, and that's when, let's have fun. Let's go out there and do what we do.
What do you remember about November 10th, 2007, Columbus, Ohio?
I remember everything about that day. I remember what I ate. I remember the walk from the hotel elevator to the bus. I remember everything about that day. That was a special time, and I didn't really realize what I was doing, and I still kind of trip about the effect that it has even today from that game. The result of that day started probably the year before when we lost to Ohio State. You probably don't recall, but that game, and I laughed with James about it. James Laurinaitis, as a sophomore, his first year starting, he had everything out to be, everything to prove, and he was going out there to perform well for his team. He caught me slipping at my true freshman year, right up the middle, and he hit me in my chin, and I had a hairline fracture in my jaw. I was out for the game. So I remember that hit, and that hit surprised me and shocked me because I didn't see the blitz coming. And I didn't see the blitz coming because obviously I'm a true freshman. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't already study film. So the following season, I remember that hit. So we had just beat Minnesota the week before. Sunday night, I'm in the film room watching film. And Ohio State was one of those teams where they did everything great. Usually a defense have 2 or 3 coverages that they play very well, but that's what you're going to get. Same coverages are going to do really well. Ohio State did everything, but they did it well. So I couldn't figure them out exactly what I'm looking for. They didn't give any tips. But I figured out one thing, well, 2 things. 2 things that they were really consistent with. Third down and red zone. I figured those 2 things out, and that's all I needed. So going into that game, I really locked in on third down, red zone. If you notice, we converted a lot of third and longs, a lot of fourth downs, and we were very efficient in the red zone. So that was my mindset, my thought process. I'm thinking about those notes in my head, walking on the field. Obviously, I'm in a horseshoe for the first time. It's 110,000 people everywhere. Y'all probably didn't see it, but we had a little scuffle with the team before kickoff. So it was a lot of emotions, around that game. So once it started, I just kind of got in the zone, and the rest is history.
28-21 victory over, for people that don't remember this, the number 1 team in the country. Number 1 team, you guys took them down, 28-21.
Interesting enough, I recently saw like a YouTube video that kind of reflected and recapped that season. I didn't realize that from, I think, week one through bowl, right before the bowl season started, it was 21 upsets that year from non-ranked teams to ranked top 25 schools. 22 upsets that year. So that was crazy enough. But, just kind of looking at that game, it was one of those days where everything had to work perfectly on our end. So our first sort of self-inflicted mistake didn't happen until the fourth quarter. We called those mistakes either fumbles, interceptions, drop passes, or penalties. Our first one didn't happen until the fourth quarter. So we had to play that type of game in order to beat, a nationally ranked, powerhouse like that.
But knowing that puts you in the mindset, knowing that you can't afford to have a mistake. You just can't. Even one could potentially be that detrimental, especially in such a tight game. Obviously, that same year, it was a fantastic year for you guys over at University of Illinois. Then you go to the Rose Bowl, which is huge, right? That's one of the biggest bowl games in all of college football, and you guys play USC. What was that experience like for you?
That was another one of those dream come true moments where you have to kind of pinch yourself to really understand that this is real. And even reflecting and thinking back, it still feels like a dream. It still feels like it was a part of another episode. And I still have these to this day where I'm running out the tunnel and the lights and cameras are still flashing. Even reflecting like that feels like it was just a dream. It was a blip and part of my career. So that was really, really cool. I just put some up on Twitter a couple of weeks back, and I do it every year on January 1st. I post a random picture from that day. And the picture I decided to use this past a couple weeks ago, it was how they do the starting lineup introduction that show like your profile picture on the Jumbotron and like your hometown. So I put up a picture of that, and you can see like the mountain backdrop from that picture. And I thought that is so cool to have been a part of that. So great experience. The granddaddy of them all. Probably would have had a bit of a better outcome from the game itself. But, the fact that we made it there after 25 years of not going there as a university, that was pretty awesome.
And you had the pleasure of playing with guys like Rashard Mendenhall, Aurelius Ben, and I mean, what was it like playing with those guys throughout your tenure at Illinois?
It was great, man. They really let me know how good I wasn't. So even just from a visual standpoint, you walk in the first time I meet Rashard, he's in the weight room, and you can see how this dude is built. He comes in, Rashard is, 5'10", 5'11", 225 pounds, 1% body fat, 4'3", 40, benching 500 pounds, squatting 700 pounds. So I have a long way to go, right? If I'm comparing myself to that. Right, Regis is no slack off from that. Like as a true freshman, Regis walks in the door at 6'2", 225. It's a true freshman, one of the strongest guys on the team. So they elevate me at my performance. Even other guys, Vontae Davis, Corey Legit, Jeff Allen, all these other guys. It was pretty cool to line up besides them because I really got a chance to see firsthand what that talent can do and how special they were in their own regards.
And by the way, I'm still upset that you guys beat my Wolverines the year after you beat Ohio State. That hurts. I won't hold that against you and the rest of the team, but I may or may not have thrown some expletives at the TV on that particular day.
Yeah, so Michigan, that was a special game too. And if I could pinpoint my best performance in college, that would be it.
Oh, I hope you're not just saying that to kill my soul right now.
It's not. And I hate to say it, but it was my best all-around performance. Broke the Big House record in terms of total yards that game. I was really in this. I never felt like that before any other game. I was really locked in, and it really felt like I couldn't do anything wrong. So that was a special day, a historical game for me. Growing up, especially in the Midwest, the brick around the Big House, around that grass, that is legendary. And I remember seeing that and walking around and then touching it. It was just a really, really special time. And to be able to go out there and have a performance like that, and beat Michigan, in their backyard on ABC, be the National Player of the Week. That was pretty cool. That was pretty special. Fast forward that 6 years later, and I had no clue. My now wife was at that game, and she was also at the Rose Bowl. Completely random. We hadn't met. I didn't meet her to 2013. She was at both those games, which is really crazy to me.
Well, now my mind's blown because I'm thinking you think about what are the chances? And you said that your in-laws they're from Ann Arbor, right?
Correct.
So I'm sure they love it that you had such a fantastic game against the Wolverines. They kind of still look at me a little funny, but it's a weird connection within that, and from Ann Arbor, they have an affiliation with Illinois. My wife's older brother, my brother-in-law, PJ, he actually lives in LA. He went to Illinois too. He was on the Flying Illini. So that was her connection going to that Rose Bowl game because he's an alum. He's right there in LA. He went to the game. And then I believe she may have just been back home visiting
Like, hey, Illinois, remember they played in the Rose Bowl, they played Michigan, so let's go. And both chances, both times she was at the game, so that, I find that really, really, really unique.
Isn't that crazy how life works? I mean, it's the stories like that. I live for stories like that. I love it because you think about out of everything that you could have been doing on those particular days, and it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's serendipitous. I guess.
Absolutely. We were just talking about that the other day too. Just like, would life be different if I didn't play in that Rose Bowl, or if I didn't play in Michigan, or if you didn't go to the Rose Bowl and you didn't go to that game at Michigan? Like, would we have met? Would it have been, hey, I remember you from this game, and I see you playing flag football in Chicago. You mind if I join the team? Would it have been like, would have happened? Right. So we kind of laugh and joke, and we kind of talked about that the other day, which is super unique.
I like those hypotheticals because at the end of the day, we'll never know. But you really think like if that one little thing shifts out of place, does that just throw everything else on the life continuum out of whack? We'll never know. We could discuss this on another episode for hours, but it is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is interesting to think about.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, special time, big house. You definitely got my best performance in college. Complete game. Even on, and this is how I know I was locked in. That even the plays that didn't go our way, where I should have been sacked, or a blitz came, or they had the perfect defense against the play we were calling, I got out of it. Changed the play, or I scrambled around, throw the ball out of bounds, and come back, or make somebody miss. I was really locked in the big house that day. So you definitely got my best performance that night.
You knew your wife to be was in the stands, and on top of that, you knew that you would be talking to some random guy named Collin Kushner in 2021.
Yeah, so crazy enough, man. It's weird how that all worked out.
I have to ask you. So I read an article, and Coach Zook, this is how he best characterized you: a winner, competitor, and that you'd be successful in whatever you decided to do in life. When you hear those comments, how do you wrap your mind around those?
That means a lot, man. That's the first time I heard that. Those comments. I know he used to say, as a coach, you'll say, you'll be good at whatever it is you do. You'll do. But to hear, for someone that you respect to say those words, that means a lot. And for them to be able to look at you, as a 18-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid when we actually met, and to have that sort of, forward thinking, to see how I'm wired inside, to see how I leverage and look at how I was brought up and raised, and sort of calculate all that into one sort of futuristic projection. And to say that means a lot. So Coach Zook is one of my favorite people. I still stay in touch with him to this day. Every now and then he checks in. So he actually was up here at the University of Maryland for a year. So he was, it was kind of like in the backyard here in the D.C. area. So one of my favorite people, and for him to say that and really believe that means a lot to me.
Those relationships are so important to have. I mean, the statistics and the wins, those are all great, but to have relationships like that where someone can say that you'll be successful in whatever you do, I mean, those aren't lighthearted comments. Those, in order to say something like that, you really have to feel it.
Yeah. And he doesn't say things like that. He don't take that lightly. Right, he is really big, and he's really cautious of what he puts out there because he can't get it back if he says it. So for him to make that type of comment, that's pretty special.
When you reflect back on your legacy at the University of Illinois, I know you had a ton of success, but we talked about being a true freshman and the struggles like anyone would have as an 18-year-old, in one of the biggest environments in the Big Ten in college football. When you look back at your legacy, positive, like, how do you see it when you get a chance to reflect back?
Yeah, so I think it's positive. Even from an athletic standpoint, the way I played, my style of play, I think I was a few years before my time in terms of being a mobile, running, throwing quarterback. It's kind of a hybrid of both. I was a little bit before that. We had a few, one-off situations with Mike Vick, Vince Young, absolutely the epitome of mobile quarterbacks, but it was just really unique to have that. Now we see it pop up all the time, right? We see Lamar Jackson, we see Patrick Mahomes, we see Russell Wilson, like these special talented guys just go out there, and that becomes the norm. So to me, I think I was a part of, along with the Pat Whites, the Troy Smiths of the world, we were on the cutting edge of really introducing that style of play at that position, and helped to become sort of a household product, right? After that, you start to see those guys pop up in the college ranks all over the place. Now we see that in the NFL, and I like to think I was a part of that movement. So from a playing standpoint, I think the legacy and the stats and the credential, all that speaks for itself. Furthermore, you talk about legacy, on this side of athletics, the experiences that I had in college, the network that I was able to build, all the way up to what I'm doing now, I'm still making impact. Not on the turf anymore, but making an impact, working with individuals and their families, helping them think through different strategies to make sure that their kid, individuals and their kids had the opportunity to go to college, to go to a major university through financial support of themselves. So they can have the Big Ten experience, so they can have the SEC experience. So all those things sort of lining up, creating a pathway and a journey that I have today. I think that I'm still writing that history, writing that legacy as we speak.
And I'm totally with you on that. It's really cool that you're taking how you can take those experiences and channel it in a completely different arena, in the financial environment, like you said, helping families set themselves up for the future. In some ways, it's more powerful than football itself.
No question. No question. I think, from what I do now, to help people think through what's next, to help people think through what's best for them, and to be totally unbiased. I think that is some of the a major asset anyone can have, to have someone to help them think through and challenge them when needed, much like a coach, to help them put them in a spot that they're better off by taking the recommendations and taking on some of the information that they receive from a financial advisor. So pretty impactful. Not only do I reach the person that I'm talking to, I'm reaching everyone around his bloodline. Everyone's associated from parents to children to grandchildren to best friends to their professional networks. I get a chance to make change and have an impact on that. So that is pretty awesome and puts me back in the quarterback seat.
When you're, let's just say, 10 years old, did you ever think that your impact would be as a financial advisor, or was that something that nowadays you look back, you're like, wow, what the heck?
Collin, I didn't even think I would be impacted 5 years ago, let alone at age 10. Right? So life is weird that way. You just don't know what to expect. You can have your mind and ideas wrapped around this thing, and it don't work out that way all the time. So, I think being able to, and again, I'm using a football term, be able to call audibles throughout life, throughout football, throughout the game itself. Audibles are very real, and they're very important to be able to adapt to what's in front of you. This opportunity came up over dinner, and we were just casually talking about New Year's resolutions, and boom, I have an opportunity that pops up. So, it's just crazy how, the type of journey that life will take you on. And, I'm super excited for where I've come to this point, and I'm super excited where I'm headed.
It's very poetic in a sense. Like you said, you have to call audibles. You have to kind of direct people as you were on the football field. Hey, Aurelius, I need you to go over there. Sometimes you need to change things up at the last second. It's scary in the best way possible how applicable the football lessons are to the financial world as a financial advisor.
I think poetic is the best word, the best way to describe it, as you said. It's crazy how all that stuff on the football field translate over to what we do today. Have a plan, right? The first thing that I talk through with a lot of, with my clients or with prospective clients is, let's figure out what's your game plan. What do we want to ultimately accomplish? What's the end goal? Well, in football, we want to win, right? Well, how do we win in a portfolio? What steps do we need to take, right? What's offense? What's defense? What's the special teams of financial planning? I use the same terminology because it makes sense and it's easy to remember, but it's the same thought process. What's going to be a part of the offense? We start talking about different investment opportunities and things that's going to make your network grow. It's offense. Defense, what's in place if something goes wrong? We talk about their insurance policies and your savings and things like that, and special teams, right? So those concepts really apply, and they really help me out to this day. Obviously, the leadership qualities, being driven, being motivated, being hard working. All those things are the intangibles that you can't teach, and they make me get up every day and come in and work on my craft. But still being able to call those audibles, because even with the polished game plan, something happens, right? The star player gets hurt, he gets injured. Someone gets knocked out the game, unfortunately. We see COVID happen, right? We see disability happen. We see investments crumble. We have to call audibles as much as the market or life sort of tells us and trains us to do. We got to be able to go roll with those punches.
I love the way you're explaining it, and I feel that if athletes look at it exactly how you're looking at it, it won't look like such a daunting task, because when you dedicate your life and your blood, sweat, and tears to football, it's so linear and you're so focused in. And I think I don't want to call it an easy transition, but the way that you describe it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's something, again, it takes experience for you to have that, I think, early on. And you hear all these stories about precisely athletes going broke. You hear this all the time. But what else can you really expect from, a teenager who had this childhood dream? I'm going to make it big. I'm going to buy my mom that house. I'm going to drive that car. I'm going to get that jewelry. I'm going to have this lavish lifestyle. What else do you expect when they actually actually get a piece of it? They're going to make that dream come true, right? So without them knowing, there's no way to have any sort of, rails that's going to keep you in check. So that's why I think it's important for individuals like myself to come in and help them be organized and have a game plan and break this down in a way that they totally understand and can receive it. I can talk finance to a person that's not very familiar with it, and I can talk way over your head. We can get into the Dow, we can get into NASDAQ, we can talk about options, we can talk about everything. Really dive into the weeds of it. It does you no good if it's doing that. But if I can articulate what I'm doing, what we're doing in a way that makes sense, now we all on the same page. Right? Now it makes it easier to start to think, all right, I shouldn't probably be doing it because it has an effect just like I would do on a football field or whatever it might be. So I try to articulate in my practice now in a way that they fully comprehend.
How important is financial literacy, not just for athletes, but for your everyday people like myself?
Everybody needs a plan. Everybody needs a plan, Collin. Whether you make $3,000 a year, whether you make $30,000 a year, whether you make $30 million a year, you need a plan. I equate someone who doesn't have a plan. It's just like when you have a gym membership. As an individual, you get a gym membership, you go to the LA Fitness, you go to Goals, whatever the gym is. If you go in there by yourself without a plan, you'll get some work done. You might go on the treadmill for a little bit. You get a couple curls, you do a bench, you take a picture for Instagram, you get out of there.
I love the Instagram line.
Right. It's true. Like you go through that process, and you get some work, then you get a light forehead sweat, and you get out of there. That all changes when you hire a personal trainer, because a hired personal trainer has a plan. All right, Isiah. All right, Collin. This is what we're doing today. We got legs. All right, we're going to do 5 minutes warm up on the treadmill. We're going to do leg extension. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to be done in 40 minutes. You're going to come out of there drenched with sweat, and you got a proper workout. Same thing. Highest net worth, the ultra net worth individuals, all the way down to the folks who just getting started. Everyone needs a plan.
How do you hammer what you just said to me into somebody's head? Because you're right, it doesn't matter if you have $3,000 or $30,000 or $30 million. Everyone needs a plan. I just think that to connect those dots for that person, that's the challenge, to get them to know that it's vital.
When I'm meeting with or talking with someone for the first time, I make it a point to listen. I make it a point to listen to understand their story. I want to understand, what's important to you, how you're thinking. How do you perceive finance? How you perceive money? And I really want to be able to think through and put myself in your shoes. Because again, yes, I can sit on a wealth of knowledge on this side, but if I can't really, meet you where you are and understand your story, I have no clue of how to even start, right? I have no clue with trying to break this idea of you want to shop, you want to spend, right? If you come from a financially responsible household, I don't need to talk to you in that way, right? We can talk about some other things more around organization and what's next for you because you get it, right? So the first thing I'm doing, I am listening, and I'm trying to understand your story. I'm trying to understand how you're wired. And then from that lets me know everything that I need to know and how to sort of proceed and move forward. So first and foremost, we listen. From there, we start to introduce new ideas in a pace that they can really absorb. If someone is not doing anything and you show them a plan where they will start doing everything, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not going to happen. It's too overwhelming. It's too much. Right. But if you slowly start to massage your way and start to check off boxes incrementally in a way that makes sense, whatever your capacity you can handle, you start to make those changes. And over time, you look up, it might take a year, it might take 5 years, sometimes it might take 10 years. All right. But that transition happens and then boom, right? You're right on track. All right. So, but everything starts with me listening and understanding, the person I'm sitting in front of first.
You keyed in on something that's so important. The art of listening. The art of listening is so important. I think a lot of people forget about that. Listen, first and foremost, and then go from there. Whether you're in broadcasting, a financial advisor, a football player, a coach, a janitor, doesn't matter. Listen.
Listen and react. It's nothing different than calling an audible. Come up to the line, listen, and you observe what's happening in front of you. Then you respond to it. So,
have you ever found yourself where because I could tell you're very passionate about what you do as a financial advisor. Have you ever found yourself with a client and then you just get so locked in that it's almost like you're playing football again. You're spitting out all these terms and you finally wake up out of the fog and you're like, oh wow, I don't think they understood anything that I just said.
I've done it a couple of times. And I try to, I intentionally build in pauses as I'm talking to somebody because of that. Because you can go. And as a client, you just like, what? So I build in pauses to slow down. Does that make sense? You understand that? Do you get it? Any questions? That snaps me out of it. If I missed you a bit, then let me reiterate that in a way that's easier to comprehend.
I like that. I like that a lot. And do you help, you don't deal exclusively with athletes. You do pretty much anybody, right? But or is there a specialty?
Yeah. So I pretty much work with professionals in a range of different career paths. So for obviously pro athletes, it makes sense. I'm passionate about it. It was one of the reasons why I got into it. I think the documentary broke on ESPN had just came out. That hit a nerve because there was a couple of people that I have personal relationships on that show. So in my thought process, what better way to make a change than to do it yourself and go out there and become a financial advisor and take advantage of the opportunity. So I have a portion of, what I do to gear towards professional athletes, but, it ranges from contractors to media personalities to attorneys to doctors to hospitalities to nurses. It sort of ranges through the scope of type of people that I work with. And because I've been in the industry for 5 years now and I've had thousands of conversations with people, I'd like to think I'm pretty well versed in the, sort of the organization and the process for different career fields. So super helpful. And again, I like to translate everything over to football. So I've seen a lot of defenses. In my day, Collin. I pretty much figured out how to beat them all. Pretty much figured out. Now it's just a matter of just executing it.
I like that a lot. I love it. I just love how it's all relatable to football. I mean, I think that is as a guy who only understands football on a rudimentary level, you throw the ball, you catch the ball. I don't get the pass protections and all that, but it's just such a unique way. Again, I hope athletes, high school, college, pro now, or even former athletes hear this conversation, because if they don't know that it's that translatable, then you're obviously going to think, oh my God, what am I going to do?
It is very, very translatable, Collin. And again, I try to put it in a way that they can easily comprehend it. And it's stuff that they can take advantage of or slight adjustments that they can do that makes their way of life totally different in a good way, right? You running a route this way, you've been trained, you've been doing this same technique over and over again. But if you make one small tweak that makes that route that much more efficient, you're open that much more. And then everything else starts to become a result of that. You catching the ball, you're making plays, whatever it might be. And sometimes those tweaks need to be made, and it doesn't take a whole lot. What I'm realizing, it does not take a whole lot to make those changes. So
When you're having these meetings, though, you're not giving them a big, giant, kind of yelling rah rah, speech,
Nah,
banging your
nah.
hand against the wall, and then you're not saying, huh, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not no. So I'm not there. I'm not quite that. And I don't think I've ever been a rah rah type. I've never been like the Ray Lewis in the locker room with these super deep, passionate speeches. I usually give a little something, and the rest is watch me work, watch me perform. So, and I think it's a place for that. So, and they get the same thing. I'm not the over the top charts and graphs and using my hands with with the nonverbals. It's not me, right? But I do bring in a quarterback approach, the even sort of plan emotional stance, and let's work. Let's figure this out. Let's go out there and win.
You don't have one of those giant, those pointers. It's like, imagine this pen and you like pull it out. You're not that guy, and you're going like,
Not
and
that.
you see this pie chart over here. 35% of this is liquid assets.
Right, right. I'm not that guy. If somebody needs it, I can refer you to somebody else who can do it, but that's not me. Sorry to disappoint anybody out there. That wouldn't be me.
You got to tell me about this dinner. So you said the whole financial advising conversation just happened just casually over a meal?
This was December 2015. Myself, my wife, and I was with her family, so all my in-laws on her side. We were at dinner. They were here in the D.C. area. And, conversation just came up, hey, what is everyone thinking or what is everyone excited about for 2016? And some people say, hey, I want to get the body back and get back in the gym. I want to work on this. I want to read these amount of books. I want to travel here. And mine was, I really want to understand investing. I hear it all the time. It's popping up on TV, see the commercials. I know it's important. I just don't know how to do it. I don't know where to start. And across the table, my sister-in-law, who happened to be one of the executives at Bank of America, she told me about a program at Merrill Lynch. It says they have a great, financial advisory program you can get into. I can get you an interview there if that's something you want to do. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And she said the word program. So in my brain, I'm thinking it's an online program that I can go in and take a class, learn it, and I can start to do it myself. Great. I didn't realize that program was an interview to become a financial advisor. So in that process, it was like, oh, okay, I guess, sure, I'll try it. And the more I learn about it, what we do, how we help people, the process that we go through, the longevity in terms of, how long someone could be doing this, it became more and more attractive. And once I started to acquire clients of my own, I kind of, pledged myself to this career. I'll be doing this for the next 50 years. So, but not 50, the next 47 years, because I'll be 80 in 47 years. Right? So I'll be doing this until I'm 80 years old, because it's not physically demanding at all. You're using, your biggest muscle, which is your brain. That can go a long time. So really love the impact. Really love the low mileage I get to put on my legs now. And for me, I'm still in the NFL. I'm still there with clients and different relationships in the NFL. I just don't have to practice and play anymore. So it's pretty cool.
And you don't have to have guys like James Laurinaitis coming at you and fracturing your jaw.
Not at all. Not at all. Those days are behind me. I'll get my fix out there, flag football maybe. But the days of me lacing it up with helmet, pads, those are done.
Is there any disappointment, Isiah, that the NFL dream never came to fruition?
For people who want to know, or who is ever curious about, what's one of the the toughest things you ever had to do, I say go through those 2 years of not playing football. That was really, really tough because we talk about we just sort of describe those pro athletes who have these mega dreams and things they want to get accomplished their entire life and actually achieve it. Mine was the reverse. You have these dreams and these accomplishments you want to get done, and then it doesn't happen, right? That was really hard. That was probably the 2 darkest years I've ever had in my life, trying to figure out why. Why not me? Why? What did I do wrong? Why, why this or why that? And you ask yourself those questions, and I really beat myself up about it. So it was really, really difficult, and that's just one part of it. I had to figure out what was next because I had 2 kids at the time. What do I want to do? What can I do? What am I qualified to do? So figuring that stuff out was very, very difficult. But again, you put the pressure on yourself to try to become an instant millionaire, then it's impossible. right? It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. So you dial it back and go with what makes you happy. Have fun. You're not having fun right now, Isiah. Have fun again. And I started to try different things, having fun, enjoying myself. Got back out there, started to try this job, this marketing thing, went back to Champaign for a little bit. Started to play flag football. I meet my now wife. All these things started to happen. And then the path it gets clear. Right? It gets cleaner. And, now I look back on it, that needed to happen in order for me to be here. I think I saved a bunch of lives not going to the NFL, and I don't mean that in a joking way. My mom uncovered that she had breast cancer in 2012. Prior to, my mom had not been to the doctor maybe for years, and that absolutely why I was in Champaign, because everyone was so excited to go see Juice play. Everyone was so excited. We're going down, we're tailgating, we're gonna have a big party afterwards. We just have fun with the family. When I didn't get to the NFL, that was her first chance to really settle down and stop moving, not travel. Let me just go. I haven't been to the doctor. I got some downtime. I'm not going to any games this week. Let me just go to the doctor. And she uncovered that she had breast cancer. And she caught it really, really early because of it, and it saved her life. So having that process and those things happen, obviously lead to her life being saved and me meeting my wife and being here today.
It's crazy though, because it's so hard to see when you're in those dark moments. It's impossible. It's like seeing red. You don't see anything else. But just how you've wonderfully stated how, with your mom and meeting your wife, and it puts you on your path, and you didn't know it. But you don't know until you get out of that dark place.
Yeah. It's weird. It's life. It's life, right? We just like with anything else, you have a plan, you have these ideas. Just like in a game, you literally have a script. And offensively, you have the first 15 plays are written down. You write down the first 15 plays. You might get through 3 of those plays before you go off script. All right. Sometimes you get to play 12, then you go off script. Right. The same thing with life. So it all works out. You maneuver and you change. You make these different adjustments till you ultimately figure it out. You ultimately win that game. So the same thing sort of happens. Certain things need to happen in the background that didn't look like wins to you at the time, or you lost certain battles at the time, but ultimately lets you winning, the ultimate goals in life.
I have to ask, and I don't even know if you have an answer for this. Why didn't an NFL team take a chance on you?
So I think it was a couple of things coming out. I think some teams looked at the overall body of work and created different averages and sort of generalized the performance. You take that first true freshman year and you combine it with the other 3 years, it was so bad as a true freshman that drags down the entire performance for the last 3. All right, so if you're just looking at overall completion percentages and things like that, yes, you can very easily make an assessment say, hey, Juice struggles with accuracy. Right? Juice can't win the big games because if you look at the whole body of work on a sheet of paper, you'll make these assessments.
That's such a flawed way of looking at it. And I'm not just saying this, but that's such a flawed way to look at it. What about character and all the other, there's so many other variables. Taking a bunch of numbers and throwing it on a sheet of paper, it's part of the equation, but to me, that's like 4%.
I can agree more. I think that's definitely a place for that. And you see, the process that, these early rounders or the projected rounders, that's the actual process that they will go through. They'll get the same sheet of paper, but they take a deeper dive for those individuals. They invest a little bit more time and energy into that, which is totally fine. I get it. I understand you can't evaluate every quarterback thoroughly like that. But me in particular, I believe that was part of the process. I didn't have any sort of pre-draft meetings. I didn't go to the combine. I didn't go to a senior game. And I'm not sure what the deal was around that, because if I just look at my body of work, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I think I checked some of those boxes enough to at least get to those things. So, which also leads me to think that I don't believe I had the proper representation around me in terms of agents and, marketing and things like that, which is another reason why I'm really passionate about working with these athletes now. It's a lot of things outside of finances that I help them out with in terms of coaching and mentoring, some of the things that they need to look out for. But I don't believe I had the proper representation in that field either to overcome some of these thoughts and ideas about accuracy or any questions that any other team would have. So, it was a perfect storm for me not to be able to have that opportunity.
I just think it all goes back to what Coach Zook said in that article that I read: winner, competitor, and he can be successful in whatever he does. What more do you want from a guy? I mean, and again, I mean, we could. This is another conversation where unfortunately, like we'll never know. But though, like everything I just said, to me, that's what you want. I don't really care like what the stats say. I want a guy who wins, a guy who competes, who's going to leave everything out on the field every single day.
And again, I'm glad he was able to see that during our time, because that's how I play. Like, you want to get everything out of me. All right, you want to get every single thing from me trying to figure out, what hit the open receiver, even to how I run. I wasn't the fastest on the field. I had some quickness, but in terms of just straight line speed, I didn't have that. So I'm going to run through you because I'm just a competitor. I'm just fierce. That's what I'm just wired to do. The same thing, appeals to me in on a professional scene now. Now, obviously, I'm not running through people, but any sort of objections that any sort of obstacles that get in front of me, I have to figure it out. Like, I just have to. Like, my brain just operates that way. My wife is more analytical. She's an attorney, and now she's a professor. She's a professor at Georgetown Law, so she thinks very, very strategically. I want to see things line up, and then I can assume the outcome. Well, you put anything in front of me, strategic or not, let's go get it. Right. So we conflict on that a little bit, which is always funny. But yeah, I'm excited, and I'm happy that he was able to see that, because that's really who I am.
It's funny. You're the one where your wife has the plan, then you're calling the audibles.
Have to. Let's have a plan. Yes, let's have a plan. All right. But sometimes second and long, right, or fourth and inches, we got to change the plan a bit. That's audible. Check out Omaha.
I love that so much, dude. That's incredible. But I have to say, and you said it so well, it's like you're in the NFL now, being a financial advisor. And don't get me wrong, I know that dream of actually suiting up in an NFL game never happened. But in some ways, what you're doing now and impacting thousands of people it's 1,000 times. It holds a lot more weight. I don't know. It's easier for me to say it since I was never in that position.
It is, and I think once you have to be at peace, and it's a process to get to that. Like, you really have to be at peace and understand that you have a different purpose. It's not that you were just unfortunate, or you did something in the past that hindered your dream. I don't believe it's that. I think you have to really recognize and understand what your impact in the world is going to be. And I think not getting to the NFL enhance my impact and allow my impact to really realize itself. If I go to the NFL, 10 years ago, it's all me. It's all about me. It's all about my talent. It's all about me being the best person that I can be. All right. Very, very narrow. Now it's, how can I help other people along with myself? How can I help other people do amazing, great things, as well as being able to take care of my family, and do the things that we want to do and have the life that we want to have. I mean, it's even people that, just talks about, yeah, but what about the financial hit that you take by not going to the NFL? That's easy to say up front. But if that was just a mission, and you say, the average NFL player made this amount, in the world that I'm in, or in the industry I can very easily blow past that. Like, looking at the grand scheme of it, right? So by no means, it's never been about that. To your point, it was more having the childhood dream that I thought that was my dream stripped. But overcoming that and being at peace with that, everything else just makes sense.
Do you miss actually getting out there? Do you ever have vivid dreams of those Saturday afternoons in Champaign?
Yeah, I would say this. I get those once a week, and that's not even a joke. Somehow, some way, football creeps into my dream every week. I maybe can count once or twice where I actually was able to go out there and perform. Every other dream, it's walking out the tunnel, and right before the first snap, my daughter is, "Daddy, waking me up." It's getting ready. I'm lacing them up. I'm at the coin toss at the Super Bowl. I wake up. It's, hey, somehow, some way, a new collegiate rule comes down, you are granted a 5th-year eligibility, which means you can go back to Champaign to help. That happens. I'm putting my cleats on, I wake up. So not too many times I actually go out there and perform in the dream, but like that happens once a week. So that's pretty exciting. So cool.
I love that. I think it's funny though. Like you're about to get out in the field, and your daughter's like, when your daughter wakes you up, you're like, "Hey, like I got a game to play."
Exactly. I try to close my eyes, go back to sleep really fast. It's too late. It's over.
Listen, I hope the ones where you're actually going out and performing. Please tell me that the opposing team is not Michigan, because again,
it's never been Michigan. I would say that it's never been Michigan. It's never been Michigan. So you're good. You're off the hook there.
Isiah, one of the last things I want to ask you, and again, I appreciate you taking the time to take a deep dive into your early years and your career as a football player, and even more importantly, what you're doing now as a financial advisor. If you had to go back in time and talk to young Isiah, I'll let you pick the age, and you could give him any piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, man. We got another 40 minutes for that. I'd say if I had to pick a particular time, I go back to high school, Isiah, and really just have a conversation around myself as understand why you're playing this game. Understand why, what's happening to you, what's about to happen to you. Understand what you're about to walk into. I would have a conversation and really even thinking even bigger. Right? I know we talked about the recruiting process and started thinking about recruiting a little differently. But I really would have a conversation where and say, hey, things are not going to work exactly how you want them to want them to work all the time. But there's a mission, there's a plan around everything. Right? Something is brewing that you probably can't see, but you just roll with it. Right? You're going to have ugly days, you're going to have great days, but you keep fighting, you continue to push through it. I talked to him about picking up the next person even at that time. I think I was so locked in on my career path and what's next for me, what university I want to go to. It's a couple other guys that I grew up with, played with, could have had a very, very similar opportunity. I had a little leverage at the time. That leverage was knowledge. The leverage could have been like, hey, Coach Zook, I know you want me, but maybe he can be a walk-on, whatever it might be. Right? I think I've been more helpful, more impactful in terms of the type of people and how many other people I could have helped out along the way. So if I can go back and have that conversation with younger me, I would definitely pick on high school me and pull them to the side.
Don't you wish you could just write like a tiny little note, like stick it under a mattress? It can go back in time. You can address it as Dear Juicy, for comedic effect. It would be cool if we could do that, but yeah. It's just amazing though, like how the struggles that we go through in life, how it sucks in the moment. I mean, we've all had those dark periods, but once you get out of it and things start falling into place, everything starts to make sense.
It does. And my spiritual side of me, again, it's hard to see that to your point where you're in that storm, where you're in that frustration, and it's hard to really think like that. But now you have to be in a place, and it takes a certain belief and a certain training to be able to do this. Now, when I'm in that sort of, dark spot, part of me starts to get excited because something big is about to happen. Every time, this didn't work out, or that career didn't work out, or the NFL didn't work out, or you didn't win that game, or whatever, that ex-girlfriend breaks up with you. At the time, it's oh my God, you get so low. But every single time, on the opposite end of that, it came out beautiful. So now, as I kind of think through, whenever I'm in those storms, I try to pinch myself or bring it back, say, hey, something great is about to happen. So now I get a little bit excited.
I like that. I think I'm going to start pulling from that as well, because you're right. Usually when something seismic that impacts you in a negative way happens, usually on the other side of that, it's something great. It could be something small, it could be something big, but you're totally right. And I think all of us could use that.
Yeah, it's something to learn. I mean, even in the darkest places, unfortunately, people are losing family and loved ones left and right. You live long enough, you'll lose somebody that's important to you. My stance on that even now, as it happens, as it's starting to happen, and it will, right? Something great is going to come out of it. Right? If I look at it that way. So that's what, allows me to muscle through those dark clouds and keep pushing forward.
I love it, man. I can tell you firsthand in some of the darkest moments of my life, with parents being sick and stuff like that, when they passed, I was in like this dark place, and I was like, what am I going to do? And, now when I think about it, they lay this wonderful foundation for you. And once those clouds parted away and the sun shined again, of course you miss them every single day, but the lessons and everything they poured into you lives on. And I think that was the big takeaway.
Yeah, no, it's very special, man. You think like that, continue to think like that. I mean, life is great. You can really enjoy it.
I try my best. You're catching me on a good day. Isiah Juice Williams, 13 pounds, 8 ounces as a baby. A little bit bigger than that now. I appreciate you taking the time, man. It's been a blast catching up with you. And again, I loved watching you back in college, man. You're one of my favorite players to watch. So it's been a pleasure to have this opportunity.
These are always fun to be able to go back and reflect and tell these stories. And, it's good. It's good to kind of look back and see the pathway that you had up until this point. And it seems like I've been through so much, and it seems like it's been such a long road. Collin, I'm only 33. I'm only 33 with a long runway ahead. So it's pretty cool for me to be able to take a peek back and have this stop in time amongst all the things that I'm doing to take a peek back and just kind of see the pathway that I've had. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
You got it. Isiah Juice Williams, a financial advisor at Northwestern Mutual in Washington, D.C. Appreciate it, my friend. For more amazing stories with former athletes, check out Hey Where'd You Go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a video version on YouTube. Plus, don't forget to check it out on social media. That's at Collin Kushner on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.